Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Gate with Dustman and Nate. I'm Dustman, and to bring you another episode of Beyond the Gate, my dog Nate.
What's up, everybody? Nate here, and on this week's episode, we've got Noah Tanker on.
How's it going?
All right, we're going to get to know everything about Noah, how his pro adventure is going, and even something about these rims here. So just stay tuned, and we're going to get right to that. All right, so do you want to tell everyone like your name, where you're from, who you ride for, what class you race?
So Noah Tanker. I currently race in the pro class. Currently, my only sponsorship is the company I'm currently working on, and I'm from Rockford, Illinois.
You want to tell what that company is?
So the company I'm working on is called Shrub Farm Designs. It is started out as a clothing company that I started out in my dorm room. Eventually wanted to turn it into something more, and here we are. I now have carbon fiber rims that are being produced and hopefully will be for sale very soon.
Nice. And how long have you been riding?
So I've actually been riding for about 13, 14 years now. I started when I was 8, and now progressing. I'm 22 now, so
yeah. And what brought you to the track back then?
My dad brought me to the track for the first time. I was pretty big into riding bikes. Grew up pretty big into the bikes, and was going to the skate park. My dad came home from work one day, and I had a little plastic ramp set up in the front yard with a bunch of the neighborhood kids laying down behind it. And I was just jumping over them. My dad was like, "Man, I can't be having you land on a little kid in the front yard and one of them get hurt and go home and tell their parents." So then they kind of just started. My dad brought me out to the track one day to check it out, and just kind of fell in love. Been at it ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah. And what kind of bike were you on when you were jumping over those kids? What did you start out
on? So I actually had this old Walmart 16-inch bike. It had these stickers on the side. It said "Major Damage."
Oh yeah,
dude.
You did some damage on that thing,
dude. That bike was a tank, man. I can't tell you the amount of times my dad had to go to the store and get new tires for the back. Because I was the king of skids. I'd start from all the way at the end of the block as fast as I could and just crank back. It had the little pedal back brakes.
Yeah.
Man, just skid the whole road.
7 different flat spots on the tire.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
All the time. And then my dad knew. He's my dad was into it when he was a kid, so he knew I needed to be into it.
That's awesome. So do you remember your first day actually being at the track?
Yeah, I remember it quite well. I was quite the sender. I right off the bat, I was into jumping. I thought jumping was the coolest thing in the world, and I wanted to, right off the bat, I wanted to jump. So we had a bike that I went out one time on a bike that I had. It was a red line that we had gotten from a bike shop, and it really wasn't the bike to be riding out there. So we actually got loaned a bike from Cecil Johnson, the Johnsons at the time. They owned a Bob's Bike Shop, and he had loaned us a bike to take out to the track, and it was a Power Light. It was one of his boys' bikes, and I jumped a step up in the first straight of Rockford, and I just started. I jumped it, and I cased it super hard and cracked the back rim, and I was super nervous about it. I didn't want to I was man, I was all worried, and got it back, and he was "Listen, you can either fix it, pay for a new wheel and fix it, or you can buy one of the bikes at the bike shop and make up for it and get you racing."
Right.
And I was I'm in. I'm all in. I wanted to get right into racing. So
right on.
We went on from there.
That's awesome.
And so your first race was at Rockford BMX?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Right on. Another Rockford local here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Another great out of Rockford.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, in the beginning of your career, how did novice go, and how long did it take you to turn intermediate?
So it was actually pretty quick. I started off pretty good. I grew up riding bikes, so when I got into racing, it was pretty quick to get natural at it. And the only problem I really had when I first started was riding big flat pedals, every single time I went into the last turn in Rockford, tried to pedal through the bottom of the turn, pedal caught, I fell, ended up with big scabs on my elbows every weekend.
I had a problem with that at the flat pedal race. Remember, like my foot blew off at that same spot, bro.
Really?
Like, yes, that same spot.
Yeah, and I was every weekend it happened, and so until like I started riding like clips and getting into that and learning not to have to pedal down into the turn, but like quick after that, like I started going to a lot of races. We started traveling, you know, following all of like the Red Line Cups at the time, all the state races, like doing all that type of stuff. And so like I actually turned up pretty quick. It was shortly after that, and then Rockford National was like 4 races after I started. Raced that my first year, won that my first year. Like, it was pretty cool. Like, and then just had like good results from there, and yeah, just went right on up.
How was that? Did you win every day at the national, or just one of them? Or?
I'm pretty sure I only won one of the days. I think I got like a second one day or like a third one day.
That's
like,
still gnarly.
Yeah, it was cool, and it was like the podium out like for like the race. Was like all locals too, so it was it was like a kid from Elgin. I'm pretty sure was in it, and like so it was just like a cool race.
Mm-hmm. So you started traveling pretty early then in novice, huh?
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
right away.
That's awesome. So and then did you get into a team like as a novice?
Yeah. So growing up, like we were good friends with the Johnsons who owned Buzz Bike Shop.
Yeah.
They helped us out a lot when I first started. Like very thankful for them and what they did for me then. And so they kind of made a deal with me, like, you know, if you win this race, it was at one of these races, they're like, if you win this race, like, you know, like, we could give you a spot on the team.
Right.
They're like, but we want you to earn it type.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted to see me work. So I was like, all right, yeah. It was like the day of the race. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's cool. Like, I'll do it. And I was winning all day. And then went in the main event, went in the last turn, big pedals, pedal down.
Oh, man. Oof.
And I come across the finish line. I'm crying. I'm all upset. My mom's like, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, yeah. She's like, why are you crying then? I'm like, because I didn't win the race, so I'm not going to get on the team. And I just remember being all upset about it. And then they, like, you know, came and talked to me, and they were like, no, like, we still want you on the team. Like, we're happy to see that actually made you upset, though. Like, it shows you want to work for it. And yeah, it was just, they helped me out from then on out. And then I rode for them for my first, like, I don't know, 6 years.
And which team was that?
Bob's Bike Shop.
Awesome. Right on Bob's Bike Shop. They are like that. I remember growing up, that was the prestigious local team.
Oh yeah, there were many years of winning all like the local scene races and the state race and, as a team, and you know, traveling up to Elkhorn in the winter to go race the indoor there, and there was a lot of, they had the little corner bike shop at the time, like, so I remember being able to go up there, and like I thought it was cool because like, oh, I rode for the team with the corner shop. Like, I felt like, you know, I was cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it was Keggles and Bob's, man. Them two, and it's still like Keggles is still going, man. But,
yeah.
But like to be on one of those two teams at Rockford was
like so prestigious.
Oh, yeah.
I remember my buddy Luke Farley was on that team.
Yeah. Yep.
He was one
there
of those.
There was a lot of big names at the time out there.
They've had a lot of big names on there, man. Like Joey was saying the other day. Like Sonny Lycan, dude, there was so many. Nate Shaver, Travis Shaver, there was a whole bunch, bro. Like,
who was on it when you were on it? Like, it was like super fast guys you remember.
Luke, Tyler Norton at the time, he was on it. Heather Coleman rode for him at a time. Me and my brother rode for him.
I remember racing your brother growing up.
Shelby Goodwin.
Oh yeah,
the Goodwins. Yeah. Taylor Goodwin. Tyler Goodwin.
Yeah.
They were all, you know, there was a bunch of fast ones. Yeah, all good people too. Yeah.
Brandon Johnson.
Yeah, the Johnsons. Yeah, that ran it. You know, Brandon did a lot for me growing up. Brandon's kind of been like that older brother figure, so he kind of brought me right on up. Same with like Elijah Wan. He was right there, you know, tagging along with all the races.
Yeah,
with
Elijah Wan
us,
was another one that rode for him for quite a while. Yeah. And so as for intermediate, how did intermediate go? Was that pretty quick too?
Yeah, intermediate actually went really quick, and it's funny too because like right before I turned intermediate, we were at a race in Brighton, We were at like a state weekend in Brighton, and it was like one of the state Red Line Cup like Saturday Sunday races.
Yeah.
And I came out and I won like all day on Saturday, and then Sunday was like the Red Line Cup race.
Yeah.
And so I won the state race, and I knew like I wanted to turn up at state. I needed one more win, and like I went out and just like choked hard, like ended it, and it was like looked like I just total sandbagged.
Right.
And like I remember there was a dad at the race that was like all like mad that his kid beat me, and they were like your kid won. Why are you mad? And he was like, well, what happened? Why was he so fast? And like I just like. Stuff happened. Like, and it was just funny because I then like went to state the weekend after in Rockford, turned up to intermediate, and then inter same thing. Like it was just smooth sailing. Just kind of I won a lot of races, a lot of local races at the time. Didn't do a whole lot of traveling then. To nationals, I hit like 3 a year maybe. But tried to keep most locals, and I hit every single local weekend at Rockford. My parents took me every weekend. It was great, you know. Anytime there's a Wednesday race, anytime there's a Friday race, you know, little night races here and there. You know, we were going to Elgin, racing almost every night of the week. Like we'd hit Rockford Wednesday night and Sundays, and then we'd hit Elgin on Saturdays, and I'm pretty sure they had theirs on like Tuesdays and Thursdays maybe. I think they had race or practice on that day too. So like it was every night of the week. Where every now and then we'd head up to Waukegan on a Saturday or go to like Steel Wheels Indoor on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's the lucky thing is, man, like we got lucky at Rockford. Like there's such a good amount of competition, you know. So like it's pretty easy to get good there.
Oh yeah,
you know?
And there's a lot of tracks like within, you know, not that far of a distance, so you can get out and, you know, meet different people at those tracks, and you're always finding new people to race.
For sure.
And so, and speaking of that, like competition, who were you like racing a lot back in then?
Ooh, back in the day. It's funny. Thor Buchanan was like my biggest competitor growing up. Like, kid was crazy fast. And he always rode for like the factory team. And like him and I used to go back and forth like every weekend at Rockford. It was always we always put on like a show of a race. Like we went head to head pretty hard. And Jim, his dad, who ran the factory team, he always worked the second turn, and it was funny. Like that was my spot to make a move, was the second turn. Like I was like I had a move in the second turn that worked on everybody except Thor. like if I tried to make the move, one of us was crashing. There was never a clean move made with that one. Everybody else it worked on, but no, not with Thor. Thor was the real deal back in the day. Like he
threw down.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, big time.
So, how did expert class start off for you, and when did you start going to a lot of nationals?
Yeah, so when I like hit the expert level, you know, that's kind of when things got serious. My mom kind of like that put her foot down, like was like, are we taking this serious, or are we just gonna continue with like the local scene and, you know, stay this route? And that's when we kind of decided, you know, like let's take it serious, you know. And so we started getting pretty big into it, and we at the time we had like a pro gate in our garage, and Elijah One used to come over all the time, and we would do gates in the garage with Brandon Johnson. He'd always come over, and you know they trained me a lot back in the day, really helped me out. And like there's some crazy stories with it. Like one time we were in the garage, and they were, let's do like super random gates. Well, undo the sound. You gotta watch the light. All right, get in the gate. I flipped the gate. I cut the top of my head open.
Oof.
And Elijah One's just standing there like, oh no, now we gotta tell your mom. Like, and so we get my mom where she's like, what's going on? Like, what?
Right.
You know, it was just funny at the time, but you know, so I was training a lot with them. I started racing a lot, traveling all over. Went from Bob's to Mudslingers at the time. Rode for them for a while. And then kind of made a transition over to the S Squared Answer Posse, I think it was at the time.
I remember
that Jim was running. And then he helped me out for a long time. It was funny because like I raced Thor back in the day, and him and I, like I had said, were huge competitors. So Jim started helping me out a lot then, and I started traveling to a bunch of races with them basically. And Jim took me everywhere throughout my beginning years. I traveled all over. I hit probably 10 races a year, 10 nationals a year, riding in the van. Some crazy stories riding in the van, on the way to races. Everybody, all the old racers, I'm sure, remember.
Let's hear some.
When Jim would pull up with his rig, in the old days. But, man, I remember this time. In the van, Justin Richmond. Justin Richmond's one of my best friends growing up. And Thor, we were in there, and Thor and I were messing with Justin when he's sleeping. I think Reese Rankins too. Reese was in the van with us, and Juice is sleeping in the front seat of the van, and we're messing with him. Jim's driving, and I like go to walk around Justin like in the van, like there's like a little aisle, and I'm going to walk around the seat, and right as I do, like Thor messes with him, and he kicks as hard as he can, pins me up against the side of the van, like so hard, shakes the whole van. Jim stops, turns around. Who's doing it? Like right away, like instantly, like he's on it. I'm laying on the ground, like trying to cover up with a blanket. I'm like, I don't want Jim to see it's me, and I'm like trying to catch my breath. Like Juice is a pretty strong dude, and he just kicked me like so hard into the side of the van. It shook the whole van and trailer and all, and like I'm on the ground like just trying to breathe and like
yelled at.
yeah, and I'm like my dad's sitting there too, and he's just like I know he's like not wanting to turn around and see it's me, and I'm hiding, and like Thor's like trying not to laugh, Reese is trying not to laugh, I'm still trying to breathe, like. Yeah,
that's
and
awesome.
Juice just pretended to be asleep the whole time. Like, didn't wake up, but yeah. Oh yeah, there's some funny stories.
That is good. That's good. So with Expert, did you race Cruiser, and when did you start racing Cruiser?
Yeah, so Cruiser was actually pretty big for me. I pretty much raced Cruiser from the time I turned Expert, is when I got the Cruiser. And I had actually, my very first Cruiser was it was like 1-of-1 Supercross, like custom made Cruiser. It was pretty cool. I had gotten it from like Cooper Sheldon. They used to race out of Rockford. I had gotten it from them and rode that for a couple of years, and then moved on up. Had gotten the frames from Jim, the Escort frames when I rode with them, and loved the bikes, and always seemed to ride really well at the National on the Cruiser. Like always seemed to just ride better on the Cruiser. And pretty much my last couple of years as an amateur, I pretty much dominated in the Cruiser class. Like I had my final year, I had 14 national wins in Cruiser. The year before that, I think I had 12, going into Grands both years, sitting like NAG 1, NAG 2, finishing NAG 4 and NAG 8, I want to say. So Cruiser was pretty big for me, like, and I don't know, I had a lot of people hate on Cruiser, why do you still race Cruiser, things like that, but to me, it's just more laps. I understand, but a lot of fast dudes still race it, and it is still a somewhat hard class, like, it's not, looking at the 1720 Cruiser class, it's not an easy class. Looking at any of those top classes, it's not an easy class. And like I understand it's not 1720X. It's not the same as winning a race like that. Like at a national.
Dude, my class has got Sean Chandler in it still, dude.
Exactly.
Like, dude, go ahead, try to beat him on Cruiser, bro.
Exactly. Look at Midwest. Cam Bramer in the 1720 Cruiser class. Wins Cruiser. It might be, goes out and wins class.
Yeah, it might be a little bit less competition, but dude, the competition's still hard as bangers, bro. So 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I get it
for sure. And then, what was the deciding push to like turn pro?
Yeah, so I basically turned 21, aged out of the 1720 class. I was in college at the time. A lot of the guys I went to school with, so also went to school with for cycling. A lot of the guys I was in school with, like, they were all already pro, so a lot of them not racing on a Sunday, because they only race pros race Friday, Saturday. They have a schedule, so like I know like hourly schedule when I race, and just easier to train for. Just thinking things like that, and that also at the time like the 21, 25 class just wasn't that big. They didn't have that many riders, barely pushing semis, and it was like do I want to pay the money to go race 2 laps in a week, like in a day, or do I want to maybe push to race, you know, the 3 qualifiers, a semi, you know, on through the pro?
True.
And doing that, I know I'm constantly being pushed the whole way, you know.
That's true.
So it was kind of just made sense to go into the pro class, you know, for the training aspect. And then COVID hit, so pro has been very hard for me to even race. I just, as soon as I turned pro, COVID hit, and then I was able to get like 1, 2, 3 races in my first year, and then went into grands, and then after grands I got sick, and then it actually slipped a disc in my back, and that put me out for the next 8 months, and then basically they changed the rules this year too to an all elite class. So then I had my first race back after 8 months off at Rockford, and then I ended up crashing at Rockford. So.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that in a few. But so you said you went to school, you know, college for cycling. How was that?
It was cool. Basically every cyclist dream, you know, going into high school. You know, what is your biggest wish? I want to go to school with other kids that are like me, that ride bikes like me, that know what I'm talking about. Like, kids don't know what you're talking about when you're like, oh, I hit this double at the track, or I double manual. What's a manual? What's a double manual? You know? Like, kids just don't understand that stuff. And then talking about like winning things, like winning different races, like people don't understand it. And so it's like when you go to college for it, you're basically, you got, you know, 8 other dudes, 8 other girls that are just like you, racing bikes. They travel all over. They train for it. So you got people to train with and like things like that. And before I went away to school, like for cycling, I didn't really want to go to school. Like school was not my biggest thing. I thought I could go to the trades and make it in life that way. And then cycling gave me the opportunity to go ride for school. It just gave me, you know, it pushed me to go into college. And so that was big. And I went away my first year to Lindsey Wilson, rode for them for a year, and then transferred from there to Marion. Just basically, it was closer to home, and I liked, you know, what was going on. And so then I rode at Marion for 3 years, met some crazy awesome people. You know, some of my best memories are made with some of the people I met there, you know. A lot of big time riders, you know, Bobby Deller, you know, Noah Barton, they both locals that had went to Marion, Ronan Weber from Australia, you know, just some really cool people that I was able to meet like while I was there. So it was like, it was a good experience, and I was able to get a degree out of it.
So what was the wildest story you got from there? Mom and Dad don't watch this.
No, we won't. Crazy. Man, wildest story. Well, I went to this. There's a couple. I went to a mountain bike race one time. It was at where was it? Mizzou, down in Missouri. And you know, we're riding, and they got this like, it's downhill mountain bikes, and they got this like drop, like goes right down the side of this hill, and then they basically like makeshift made this ramp over a creek. And it's like completely like makeshift, like shady, like you can move it. And so I'm hitting it, you know, shredding it all day, and this one of my friends that went there, he's like, hey, I want to follow you in. So I was like, all right, bet. We go in, he falls, he gets like super hurt. I forgot what happened, but he got hurt. We get the bike right back up the hill. My buddy Ronan hops on it, goes down the mountain, hits the jump, it breaks. Like he like fell before it into it, and the ramp just like breaks. He gets up, his fingers like all crooked, and he's just like looking at me like, that's not good. And yeah, it was just insane, like back to back, just crazy, just it crashes right there. And like we knew ahead of time, like we were like all iffy about it, like oh, I don't know if we should do it. And then no, it was some fun times, definitely some fun times.
So, what kind of training were you doing in the expert class? And then did you bump it up at all for when you went pro?
Yeah, so I basically have just kind of trained by myself all growing up. My dad made random things around the house to help me get better. When I was younger, I wasn't, strong enough to flip a tractor tire, so he would make logs. He works for the phone company. He'd bring like telephone poles home from work, like cut them up, and he'd make like big logs. He'd like, make grooves for my hands, and he'd give me gloves, and he'd make me do like in our backyard we had like a fence, and he'd make me from fence to fence, flip the log down. All right, now flip the log back. All right, now flip the log down, and then he got like a car tire one time, tied the string to it, tied it to my bike, was making me do sprints, pulling the car tire down the road, I think I came up with probably every single excuse possible throughout the years. And then that just wasn't working out, So we moved on, and we were good friends with, I mentioned Cooper Sheldon. We were good friends with Matt and Cooper Sheldon, and Cooper was racing really good at the time, was winning a lot of nationals and stuff, and Matt started helping me out then, and we did sprints at their house, twice a week, and Matt was coaching me, helping me out. We'd go out to the track anytime we could, anytime Rockford was open, we were out there, and he's working with me, and it's funny because, some of those training sessions were some of my biggest, like, achievements, like, the big triple in the first straight at Rockford. I was like, I think the first time I jumped the triple into turn one, I was like 9 years old, 10 years. I was 10, I think, the first time I did it. That's awesome. I remember he was sitting there and he was hyping me up all session and, get over it. Come on, just do it. Just do it. You know how many times you ride at something and you just don't do it. Yeah. And so he's hyping me up and he's like, he's just not going to do it. He's like, just go cool off. And he's like talking on the phone on the side of the track. And it's supposed to be my cool off lap. And I just come hauling in at it and just jumped it. Landed it, turn and look at him, and he just puts the phone down and just looks at me and just like, jaw hits the floor. He helped me out a lot.
That's awesome.
That was a huge jump at the time. It's everybody, any local Rockford rider was like, that's the jump to hit. And so then moving into my older years, Justin Richmond was one of my best friends. And Juice has had quite the career racing. Crazy wins, worlds. He has a world win, lots of nationals. And Juice lived 35 minutes away from me. So the big thing to do every summer was I went to Juice's house for like 2 weeks, and Juice and I did everything together, from, him teaching me, frog hops in the street in front of his house to, there was this like spot, like, man, what felt like miles from his house, which really was only like a 2-mile bike ride. But we used to do it with shovels on our handlebars, and we'd go build jumps, and like we'd spend hours in the day building these jumps, and then like the next week we'd go back, somebody plowed them every time, and him and I used to spend weeks on end, training together, and he's taught me a lot. And then when I went away to college, I went to Lindsey Wilson, and I did some training there, and then with the coaches and stuff and the team, and then when I went away to Marion, the big strength conditioning coach there is Vern Smith. And Vern, when I first came to Marion, Vern was like, he was like a father figure to me almost in the gym. Like, he taught me everything, worked with me a lot. And that's really what got me started into actually taking training seriously. Right. And basically I worked with him the whole time I was there until my last year, this year. Juice was a rider at the school at the time when I first got there. And then he soon eventually became a strength and conditioning coach at the school. And so I trained with Juice all growing up. Nobody knows my body better than Juice. Like, for training, like, he's been working with me for a long time. So, I just started working with Juice a lot more then. And, he's got the Aspire Athletics, so he kind of, he really knows what he's doing on it. And he took my training pretty seriously. And, him and I would say, had some pretty great, accomplishments.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So with all that, what about crashing? What was one of your worst crashes besides this weekend?
Oh, man. So when it was 2012, I don't remember how old I was, but I had a crash at the Garden Trails in Chicago. and basically I had a half shell helmet on, and I went into a switchback berm, washed out into a roller, and when my parents got to me, I was face down, passed out in a pool of my own blood. They rushed me to the hospital. I was all unconscious the whole time. They ended up transporting me in an ambulance to another hospital. I was in a children's hospital in Chicago. I basically broke both cheekbones, my nose, had stitches inside and out of my mouth, and had basically just, it was a pretty horrific fall. And yeah, that was probably one of my gnarliest ones that I ever had.
What's like the span of time you don't remember?
A while. It's like patches. So it's like I remember being there. I remember like everything leading up to it, and then I remember waking up in the car. I remember waking up in the ambulance. Pretty sure I threw up all over one of the ambulances. And then I remember waking up in the first hospital, and then again in the second hospital. So it was like patches, like going in and out,
Right. Yeah. So how was it like when you got back to the track? Did it change the way you rode?
It really didn't. I really did not let it affect how I rode at all. I was in the hospital for a week. They finally let me out of the hospital. Went home. My parents were super strict on it. Like, there's no riding your bike. Like, there could potentially never be a bike again.
Right.
Because in the hospital when that happened, they basically told my parents, he may never walk again, let alone ever ride a bike again. Like, it was a pretty scary moment. And so when we got out, they're like, you just need to be thankful you walk. Like, we take it one step at a time. Just take things slow. And then I remember one day they came home from work and I was riding my bike around in the front yard in circles. And my mom's like, she's like, and I said, I didn't leave the yard. I just stayed, riding around in circles in the front yard. And I remember she like had to talk to my dad, and then, here we are right back at it,
Yeah.
Got right back into it. Right. And I really didn't let it ever affect me. I got right back into riding, right back into jumping. I really have always wanted to go back to the garden.
Yeah.
I haven't been back since that crash, but that is definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're gonna all have to make a trip out there soon.
Definitely, absolutely.
Yeah. So like with that, that's another question that a lot of people want to hear is like, have you ever had a jump that like you crashed and you actually had to like change the way you rode it?
No, not really. I try and just push through every time, and I try not to let anything hold me back.
Right.
So we kind of alluded to it earlier about the crash in Rockford over the past Midwest National. You want to give us a little info on it?
Yeah, so I was racing in the elite class. I was having a good weekend. It was my first race back in 8 months. Just kind of taking it slow. I didn't have any expectations, I really just wanted to get back on the bike.
Right.
And so just happened to have a slip up going down the third straightaway. I hit the manual out of the turn, hit the pump the next one, went to manual the next one, and then just kind of started to loop out. Thought I saved it again, 1, 2, 3, and then brought it down into the step down into the turn too late, and basically just nose bonked into it. Came up, nose manual across, basically like launched myself from there, and then tried to ditch the bike last second. There's nothing I could do. And the bike landed in the turn, and then I kind of just caught myself on the handlebar into the turn, and then proceeded to smash my face into the ground and just kind of drag myself across the blacktop turn. It was pretty rough. I smashed all my teeth out, so in case you're wondering why my teeth are gone, I smashed them out in the race. I have not gotten the new ones in yet. And ended up with what I think is a hernia in my side. A lot of bruising. It was a pretty rough race.
Looks like you got half of a pool ball sticking out of the stomach.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And big shout out to the Formula Fly helmet though, because I ended with no head injury and I pretty much landed on my face. So I don't know how I didn't get a head injury, but that helmet saved my life big time. And another big shout out to bar ends, because had I not had the bar end, it would have just basically went straight into me. They said that I had some internal bleeding from the crash, that they had to monitor, but nothing too serious after that. I just got to figure out what's next in the game plan and get the new teeth, get the new grill.
Yeah. And he's already talking about the next race.
I'm trying to get right back into it. That's one thing is like, you can never let a race, never let a crash hold you back. It's just one of those things you move forward from, and you just got to keep moving. That's the big thing with this crash is, I've had so many people come and ask me, are you going to continue, and the big one that a lot of people are just like straight up like, I don't think you should keep doing this. And it's like, I grew up racing. Everything I've ever loved has been at the track,
Yeah.
The track is who I am. Racing is who I am. Riding out there, the people out at the track, it's just a giant family, especially out of Rockford. Everybody there is so close, and I wouldn't be who I am without it.
Right.
Growing up in school, the biggest thing I got in trouble for was I wrote too many papers about BMX.
Right.
You ever talk about anything other than BMX?
Yeah.
Why are you playing with bikes on your desk in school? Why is everything a bike to you? Why is everything a track? If I let that crash hold me back, then that just wouldn't be who I am.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is like you could race the rest of your life and it never happen to you again, or it could happen to you 3 times.
Exactly.
You never know.
Exactly. And I got lucky on this one. Basically, what the doctor said is I was 2 centimeters from hitting the main artery, my main aorta, in my stomach. Had I hit that, there's no telling what could have happened. I could have basically just dropped right there, but there's no reason to let it hold you back. It's just It's just more motivation to keep moving forward.
Yeah, always wear a helmet, everybody.
But what was the famous Rocky quote? Like, it's not about how hard you get hit; it's about how you get back up after you get hit. Rocky is growing up. Rocky was the movie for training with.
Yeah, for sure.
If that's a story to tell, it's the Rocky movies. My dad and I, that's our go-to thing.
I won't lie. I've trained to the Rocky soundtrack before.
The Eye of the Tiger, the Eye of the Tiger song.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
It definitely hits you and gets you going.
It does. It definitely makes you want to train, especially when you don't want to train.
Oh yeah, well that was the training song when I was little.
Yeah.
And so then when I got older, anytime we went to a race, didn't matter if it was a local race, it didn't matter if it was nationals, it didn't matter if it was grants.
Yeah.
I could pinpoint anywhere in the stands. I could find my dad. And every time, it was one of these, and he'd point. That was our thing. And so it was actually one year I went to Grands, and it was my, big year of making the main. I'd been winning all the cruiser races going into it. And in the gate, I'm looking before they call it. They do the walk by with the video, and I'm looking, and I see my dad. And so when they finally get to me with the camera, I did one of those, like, it was Eye of the Tiger. That was the thing growing up.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so with you being in, like you said, for life, you're trying to get a little thing going as well right here. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically, my dad and I, back in the day, we had gotten the name the Shred Farm. We wanted to create an indoor riding facility that I could train in. That soon just didn't work out. That's every BMXer's dream,
Right.
My dad was always like there. He tried everything he could to get me, to the next level. And so later we still owned the name, and I had always talked about owning a clothing company or owning some sort of company. Especially in college, I needed some sort of way to make an income of some sort. I'm a broke college student, and so I started a company with the name Shred Farm Designs, and just started making logos on the computer one day. And then I actually had a good friend of mine, his name's Caleb Cunningham. I went to high school with him and stuff, and then when I went to Indy, he moved to Indy, happened to be going to school not far from me, and he was like, hey, I want you to you talked about making t-shirts, I got something I want you to print on a shirt, you put your logo on it, and then we'll go from there. And so he sold 50 shirts in the first week. So I knew it was going good.
Right.
Well, then I wanted to take it something more. The t-shirts, the clothing, it was cool. It was going good. And I wanted to keep doing it, but I figured carbon rims was a big thing at the time. Carbon rims was expensive, and it's kind of every, BMXer, you look at carbon rims differently.
Yeah.
And so, I really wanted to figure out a way that I could kind of make my own. So I spent a whole year, kind of designing, looking at other rims, looking at what I liked, and just basically designing a rim of what I thought was exactly what I wanted. It includes everything I want. It's not too tall. That was the one thing when the carbon rims first came out that I didn't like, was that they were super tall. They were deep dish wheel. And I didn't like that. I thought and so I wanted something that was somewhat low profile, and basically a lot of the carbon companies use the same weave pattern, so I went with a little bit different weave pattern on this. It's got a 12K twill weave. And then basically through my logo, had them put my logo on it after I worked with the manufacturer to make the rim, and then we came with the logo, came up with the prototypes, and now here we are. I now have a prototype carbon rim, and so this is pretty much the new venture.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And
very
you run
excited
these on
for it.
your bike?
Yeah, so I actually, the first race on them was Midwest, and I took a pretty terrible crash, as I talked about.
Yeah.
And the rim held up perfectly fine. There was not a single problem with it.
Good.
I haven't had any problems with like the spokes coming loose.
Yeah.
Even like, the rims are holding up. They're not flexing in any way. Basically they feel good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about them.
Yeah.
The prototypes turned out great. I'm ready to start running with them. So
Yeah.
these will be big here soon, hopefully.
Yeah, so if you're interested in them, Shred Farm Designs, get you some of them. Talk to Noah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And what would you say is your biggest takeaway from BMX? Like, what do you use in your daily life from like that you learned at the track? Like, it's like giving your character about it.
BMX has given me a lot. BMX has taught me a lot. Determination, honestly, hard work. BMX taught me hard work. Racing's never easy.
Nope.
Going from novice to enter to expert, it's never easy. Going to pro, never easy. Especially when you hit the pro level.
Yeah.
And just learning, like, the biggest one is just not letting anything knock you down, like, too bad that you can't get back up,
Right.
There's you can always, push forward,
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of takeaways from BMX that a lot of life lessons. That was another big one when I was growing up and looking into going to college. What does BMX do for you? When I was really young, before college was even in sight, it was what are you going to get with BMX?
Right.
I mean, football players at school, they can grow up and go right into college, for football.
Right.
What are you going to do with BMX? And it was doing more than what people saw, and then it eventually turned into, now I went away to school for it. Now I have a degree. I just got a job in Chicago to take it to the next level,
Right.
I'm working with things like this, and the amount of people I've met has been insane.
Oh yeah.
That's the biggest thing. It's just like, I have met people from all around.
Oh, yeah.
My roommate at school, Ronan Weber from Australia.
Yeah.
One of the coolest dudes I've ever met. And without BMX, I wouldn't have met these people.
Yeah.
So that, there's been a lot to take away from BMX.
Yeah, Ronan, you're not that cool. Calm down.
Yeah, I'm sure he's watching this.
No, yeah,
In his quarantine room.
That means we get an Australian viewer.
Yeah.
He's in his quarantine room in
Yeah,
Australia right now.
Different continents.
We're watching that video. We're watching you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, dude,
I think
that's
it was
awesome.
the hands on the hips when he was looking out the window in his recent YouTube, or recent Insta video.
Yeah.
That's what did it for me.
So with all that being said, man, you got anybody that you thank with all this stuff?
Oh yeah, there's been so many people that support me over the years. The Johnsons, when I first started, that they owned Bob's, DD, Cecil, Brandon, Ben, that whole crew. Jim helped me out in the later years. Jim Buchanan, Thor Buchanan, the whole crew, the whole OG team, that we had, there was been so many people out of the track, that has helped me, Stephen Fahey, Tony Larson, Mudslingers, big dudes that have helped me over the years, especially recently with all sorts of stuff, anything, even if it's just somebody to call. There's people out of the track, Ryder Ward, little homie of mine that, he's always kind of kept me on my toes, he keeps me going. Little guy that I've now, kind of started giving tips and pointers to, Colton Zanoni.
He's a cool kid.
Yeah, very cool kid. Like, he listens to what I say, and that's the biggest thing, when you're training a kid, is he listens.
Yeah.
They listen. And that's a kid that listens, and he's a shredder. So.
Yeah, he's fast, man.
Exactly.
He is. He's good. He's going to be really good, too.
All right, guys. So we've got a little giveaway we've got going on here. We've got these carbon rims we're going to give away. We're looking for some people to share the video and follow our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. So Noah, you want to tell people about these rims you got here?
Yeah, so this is a 28-hole carbon wheel set we're talking about. They are 12K weave carbon rims with the white logos on them. This is the same set. I run the 36-hole set, but this is the 28-hole set on my bike personally. I absolutely love them. This is the first set in white that has ever been made, so it's kind of a big deal that I'm just giving them away. I want to see them go to somebody that's going to ride them and put them to good use, and I also want someone to give me feedback on them. You know? I want the riders to talk. So.
Yeah. So get on this video right here and comment Shred Farm Designs. How about that?
Yeah. Comment Shred Farm Designs, and this rim, we were make sure it will be the set. It will be the set, not just the one.
Yeah.
And then if you do happen to win from outside of the country, the United States, you will have to pay for the shipping on that one.